Welcome everyone to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something truly remarkable, an event that really sent ripples, maybe even waves, across the global soccer scene.
That's right.
Just picture it. June 20th, 2025, Lincoln Financial Field, Philadelphia. The place is absolutely jammed, just buzzing, huge stakes, the Club World Cup.
Mm-hmm. Big stage.
And then, completely against what everyone expected, really, especially for a European giant like Chelsea, it just happened.
Yeah.
This incredible comeback, a turnaround that honestly people are going to be talking about for a long, long time.
You're spot on. This wasn't just like a narrow win. This was Flamengo's stunning 3-1 victory over Chelsea. They were down early, completely turned it around.
Yeah.
And this result, as we're going to unpack, it didn't just sort of question where the power lies in club soccer. It kind of blew some assumptions out of the water. Felt massive for this tournament format.
Exactly. And that's our mission today. We're going deep. We're looking at all the sources we can find, the match reports, the tactical analysis, what the players and coaches actually said.
The quotes.
And of course, that the pundits made of it all. We want to really get under the skin of how it happened. The tactics, the moments of sheer brilliance.
And the mistakes, too.
Oh, yeah, and the moments of, let's say, indiscipline that turned what looked like a standard European win into this massive Brazilian party. So for you listening, we want to give you the full picture. How did this happen? And maybe more importantly, why does it matter for global club soccer going forward?
Yeah, it's like peeling back the onion, isn't it? This one match tells a much bigger story about the sport right now. We'll look at the stats, sure, but also the decisions, the emotions, the crowd, everything.
It really feels like a snapshot of the shifts happening in the game.
Definitely. This match is a perfect case study.
Okay, so let's start by setting the scene properly. This wasn't just any old tournament, was it? Let's talk about the Club World Cup itself.
Right, context is key here. This is the expanded 32-team Club World Cup. FIFA's vision here is, well, it's huge, isn't it?
Massive.
They want this to be a proper global championship for clubs, not just, the usual suspects from Europe waltzing through. That billion-dollar prize pool, the 4-year cycle, FIFA is serious.
They really are putting their money where their mouth is.
Exactly. And results like Flamengo beating Chelsea. That's precisely what they were hoping for. It sends a message loud and clear. European dominance. Don't take it for granted anymore.
And you could feel that ambition, that energy just pouring out of the stadium itself. The sources are all saying the atmosphere in Philly was Maracana-like.
Wow. That's quite a comparison.
Isn't it? And the attendance figures back it up. 54,019 people. And the reports say the vast majority were Flamengo fans.
So it was basically a home game for them in Philadelphia.
Pretty much. Imagine that sea of red and black, the noise, the drums, constant energy. The sources are pretty clear this wasn't just background noise. It genuinely influenced the game. It was like having an extra player.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That kind of support, it lifts your own team, but it can also, get inside the heads of the opposition, especially in a high-stakes game like this one.
Huge psychological pressure.
Definitely. And, for a while there, it looked like Chelsea were handling it okay. They seemed composed early on.
They really did. The first, say, 15, 20 minutes, Chelsea looked in control. They were moving the ball well, seemed to have settled things down despite that intense atmosphere. Maybe Flamengo were a little tense.
Hey, big occasion nerves.
And then, bang. 13th minute, Pedro Neto scores for Chelsea. It came from a mistake, actually. Flamengo's young right back, Wesley Fernsa,
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
misjudged a bouncing ball. Neto was onto it like a flash and just slotted it home. Clinical.
Yep, predatory finish.
And at that moment, just 13 minutes in, you're thinking, okay, here we go. Chelsea lead. They look confident. Business as usual for the European side. Felt like they had it under control.
Yeah, it really seemed that way. That early goal gave them that cushion, let them dictate things, or, well, seemingly dictate things.
Right.
Because looking back now with the full picture, that control Chelsea had, it was maybe a bit fragile. It wasn't built on really solid tactical foundations for the whole 90 minutes.
Exactly. It contrasted so sharply with how Flamengo managed to impose their game later on, especially in that huge second half. Chelsea might have been winning on the scoreboard early, but the tactical battle was already simmering underneath.
Which brings us neatly to those tactics, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The contrasting approaches from the two managers were fascinating.
Totally. Let's start with Flamengo. Managed by Felipe Luis, a name Chelsea fans know very well, of course, former player.
Yeah, adds another layer of intrigue, doesn't it?
Definitely. He set them up in their usual 4-2-3-1. And what really struck the analysts looking at this was their discipline. Even after going down, they didn't panic.
No chasing the game wildly.
Not at all. They stuck to their plan. Patient build-up, keep the ball, work the openings, methodical, and crucially, as we saw later, they were absolutely lethal from set pieces. That execution proved, well, devastating for Chelsea.
It says a lot about Luis and the team's maturity, doesn't it? To concede early in that atmosphere against that opposition and just stick to your guns. Keep playing your way.
Yeah, belief in the system.
That patient buildup, it allowed them to probe, find weaknesses, maybe conserve a bit of energy too. And they clearly knew set pieces were a strength. They worked on that. The movement, the delivery. It wasn't luck.
No, it looked very well rehearsed. And then you contrast that with Chelsea under Enzo Maresca. The word that keeps coming up in the sources is unconventional.
Right. And maybe not unconventional in a good way, according to the critics.
Well, exactly. Some really specific decisions raised eyebrows. Reece James, world-class right back.
Right.
Playing in central midfield.
Yeah, that was unexpected. Takes away so much of his threat down the flank.
And Cole Palmer, who's been so good for them centrally, pulling the strings, he was stuck out wide on the right.
Which just limits his influence massively, doesn't it? He wants to be involved, getting touches, making things happen in the middle.
And the stats bear that out. Palmer apparently only had 32 touches the whole game, just 15 in the first half. He eventually got subbed off late on. Pundits were really critical of how that blunted Chelsea's attack.
You have to wonder what the thinking was there from Maresca. Was it trying to be too clever, surprise Flamengo? Because it seems like it backfired.
It really does.
Moving James disrupts the balance defensively and offensively. Putting Palmer wide isolates him. It just seemed to create problems rather than solve them. You could see Flamengo start to exploit those gaps, especially in midfield, as the game wore on.
So even though Chelsea scored first, you get the sense that Flamengo were playing the long game tactically. Chelsea's early control felt a bit superficial, maybe?
I think so. It was like they won the first round, but Flamengo knew the fight was 12 rounds, you know? They stuck to their plan, weathered the early storm, and waited for their moment.
And that moment arrived in spectacular fashion, didn't it? That 6-minute period that just turned the entire match on its head.
Unbelievable sequence.
Yeah. And it really seems to stem from one key decision. The score's still 1-0 Chelsea, but you feel the momentum might be shifting just a little. 56th minute, Filipe Luis makes a change. He brings on Bruno Henrique.
And that was the catalyst. Just textbook impact substitution. You could almost feel the shift in energy when he came on.
It was immediate, wasn't it? Just 6 minutes after stepping onto the pitch, 62nd minute, Bruno Henrique gets the equalizer.
Great build-up, too.
Yeah, run down the right, cross comes in, Gonzalo Plata heads it back across goal, and Bruno Henrique is right there, tap in. Simple finish, but huge moment.
And the noise in the stadium then. Must have been absolutely insane, that Flamengo crowd going wild.
Oh, you have to imagine. Pure eruption. Belief flooding back. Or maybe not back. Maybe just exploding.
And what that does to the Chelsea players, too. They looked pretty comfortable, and suddenly, bang, level pegging. And it validated Luis's decision instantly. Masterstroke.
But wait, there's more. They weren't done. 3 minutes later, 65th minute.
So quick.
Flamengo win a corner, ball comes in, and Danilo climbs highest, powers the header home. 2-1 Flamengo.
Incredible turnaround. And who got the assist?
Guess who? Bruno Henrique again. Flicked the header on perfectly for Danilo.
Wow. So goal and assist within, what, 9 minutes of coming on?
Yep. From 1-0 down to 2-1 up in about 3 minutes of actual playing time, all sparked by the substitute, Chelsea just seemed to collapse.
It really exposed those set-piece frailties Chelsea had, didn't it? Flamengo knew it, targeted it, and executed perfectly. Devastating blow for Chelsea, psychologically.
You could see it. They look stunned. And then just as they're trying to process going behind so quickly, disaster strikes again.
The red card.
The red card, 68th minute. Nicolas Jackson, who'd only just come on himself maybe 4 minutes earlier.
Yeah, substitute sending off another substitute almost. Well, Jackson sent himself off.
Exactly. Straight red. It was a horrible challenge. Studs up right into Ayrton Lucas, just reckless.
Zero need for it either. Frustration boiling over. Lack of composure, whatever it was costly.
Hugely costly. Game effectively over as a contest, then you'd think. And the sources point out, this wasn't a one-off for Jackson either. His second red card in just 4 matches.
Oof, that's not a good pattern. Especially for a young player at a big club. It really highlights maybe a temperament issue or struggling with the pressure.
Could be. And coming on when your team's just gone behind, needing a lift. And you do that, it's just a self-inflicted wound, as you say, really put his team in an impossible position, down a goal, down a man.
Yeah, any hope Chelsea had of fighting back just evaporated in that moment. It felt like the final nail.
Although Flamengo did add one more, just to be sure. With Chelsea down to 10 and clearly shell-shocked, Flamengo controlled the rest of the game pretty comfortably.
Made their advantage count.
Yep. 83rd minute, another sub makes an impact. Wallace gets on the score sheet. Clinical finish. And who provided the assist again?
Let me guess. Plata.
Gonzalo Plata again, his second assist of the game. Made it 3-1. Just sealed the deal. Really underlined Flamengo's control by that point.
Yeah, that goal felt like just confirmation of what we were already seeing. Flamengo were superior once they clicked into gear, and Chelsea just sort of fell apart.
And the stats really back that up, don't they, when you look beyond the scoreline?
They do. They paint a pretty clear picture.
Flamengo had 9 shots on target to Chelsea's 4. That's telling. More intent, more accuracy.
And better conversion, too. They took their chances when they came, especially in that key period.
Absolutely. And that aerial threat we mentioned, clearly a factor. Set pieces were a massive weapon for them, and Chelsea just couldn't handle it.
Possession was fairly even overall, Flamengo just edging it with 51.5%. But that doesn't tell the whole story.
No, because in that second half, when the game was decided, Flamengo were the ones controlling the ball, controlling the tempo. They had the ball when it mattered.
Exactly. It's not just how much you have the ball, but what you do with it, and when you have it. Flamengo were far more effective, more incisive.
And it comes back to those substitutions again, doesn't it? Felipe Luis just played it perfectly.
Totally. Bruno Henrique and Wallace both score within minutes of coming on.
Yeah.
That's incredible impact. Shows the depth they have, but also the manager's reading of the game.
Yeah, knowing when to make the change and who to bring on. Huge credit to Luis.
And credit to the players for stepping up instantly. They knew their roles.
So, beyond the tactics and stats, let's talk individuals, the heroes, and well, the others. For Flamengo, you have to start with Bruno Henrique, man of the match, obviously.
No question, game changer.
Goal and assist in 27 minutes. Incredible. And his quote afterwards was interesting, too. He said, "I noticed that we had the advantage. We had the fans on our side, and that's when we started to pressure."
Hey, acknowledging the crowd, the momentum shift. He felt it, and he acted on it, embodied that comeback spirit.
Definitely. But he wasn't the only hero for Flamengo. Gonzalo Plata, 2 assists, constantly probing, creating chances.
Really instrumental, wasn't he? Kept feeding the attackers.
Danilo, too. Got the crucial go-ahead goal, but was solid defensively all game. A real two-way contribution.
Yeah, vital goal, vital presence.
And we can't forget the keeper, Agustin Rossi. Made 3 really big saves in that first half when Chelsea were on top.
Crucial. Kept them in the game when they were under pressure, especially that save from Neto early on. If that goes in, maybe it's a different story.
Absolutely. Those saves allowed the comeback to even be possible. So a real team effort from Flamengo, spearheaded by Bruno Henrique's cameo.
Definitely. Key contributions all over the pitch at different times.
Now for Chelsea, a bit more of a mixed picture, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, some individual efforts, but collectively, not great.
Pedro Neto scored again, his second of the tournament. Good finish. But the reports say he looked really isolated after that. Not much support.
Which goes back to those tactical issues, doesn't it? The attack looked disjointed.
Levi Colwill, probably their best defender on the day, made a crucial goal line clearance at one point. Showed a real fight.
Yeah, he stood out, battling against the tide.
And Robert Sanchez in goal, he made 5 saves. Which, kept the score from being even worse, I suppose. Shows how much pressure Chelsea were under.
True. He was busy. Again, it points to the defense being exposed too often.
And then, Nicolas Jackson, his performance, culminating in that red card, it just seemed to symbolize Chelsea's struggles, didn't it? That immaturity, maybe.
Yeah, it really crystallized their problems. Minimal impact before the red, poor decision-making. It was tough to watch.
And that Instagram post he put up afterwards, really quite raw, saying he was so angry at himself, worked hard not to put the team in that situation, taking full responsibility.
You feel for him on a human level reading that. Clearly understands the magnitude of the error, but it points to that pressure cooker environment and maybe not handling it well.
A tough lesson learned on a very public stage.
For sure. The club needs to support him, but also address that discipline issue.
So the dust settles, the game's over. What was the reaction? Let's look at the coaches and pundits.
Right. Felipe Luis for Flamengo must have been ecstatic. Beating his old club on this stage, huge.
And he sounded quietly confident, didn't he? Said it was a special day, but also We knew we would have chances against Chelsea because we have one way to play, praising his team's belief, their system.
Yeah, that one way to play comment is key. Shows a clear identity, a philosophy he's instilled. It wasn't just luck, it was validation for his methods. Beating a giant by sticking to your principles. Powerful stuff.
On the flip side, Enzo Maresca had to face the music. Admitted they conceded twice quickly, and the red card made it very complicated.
Understatement, maybe.
And his rotation, those tactical choices, they came under heavy fire from the experts. Questions about Reece James's position, Palmer's role, a lot of scrutiny.
As you'd expect, when you make unconventional calls and they don't work out in such a big game, you have to answer for it. It wasn't just the result, it was the process that led to it that drew criticism.
And the pundits. They didn't pull any punches. John Obi Mikel, former Chelsea player himself, was on DAZN.
Oh yeah, what did he say?
Pretty scathing about Jackson's red card. Called it unbelievable. Stupid, stupid, stupid mistake. Said, you come into the game, your team needs you, and you do that.
Wow. Strong words, especially coming from an ex-player.
Yeah, it really reflected that feeling that it wasn't just a mistake, but maybe showed a lack of mental strength from the team in that moment.
That lack of composure under pressure. Yeah, Miguel would know what's required at that level.
But maybe the sharpest insight came from Gab Marcotti. He really nailed the experience difference.
What was his take?
He basically said, look, it shouldn't be surprising that Flamengo are the grown-ups here. Chelsea are a very, very young side. Flamengo are packed with experience and familiarity with the big stage.
That hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It puts the whole thing in perspective. Flamengo's players, many of them seasoned veterans of huge South American clashes, the Libertadores, they've been in these pressure cookers before.
Exactly. They knew how to manage the game, manage the moments. Chelsea, for all their talent, maybe lacked that collective nous, that big game experience. Marcotti's grown-ups comment really resonates.
Yeah, it suggests that maybe talent alone isn't enough in these global tournaments. You need that hardened experience too.
And you saw the joy on social media too. Flamengo's official account tweeted something like, Botar os ingleses na roda, disso a gente entende.
Which means?
Roughly, put the English in a spin. We know how to do that. Bit cheeky, but captures that sense of triumph, that historical context of Brazil versus England, South America versus Europe.
Love it. More than just a win, it's a cultural statement, tapping into that history. Bragging rights secured.
Absolutely. So, okay, massive result. What does it mean for the tournament itself, for Group D?
Well, for Flamengo, it's huge. They're sitting pretty at the top of Group D now. 6 points from 2 wins. Qualification for the knockouts is almost guaranteed.
Practically done, yeah.
And they just need a draw against LAFC in their last game to clinch top spot, which means maybe resting players, getting a potentially better draw. They're in complete control.
Shows how one big win can shape your path, validates their approach.
Definitely. But for Chelsea, much trickier situation now.
Yeah, they're still second with 3 points, but that loss puts enormous pressure on them. They face Esperance de Tunis next on June 24th.
And they have to avoid defeat in that one to guarantee going through.
Yeah.
Suddenly, it's a nervy, high-stakes final group game they probably didn't expect.
Big test of character now. How do they bounce back from that Flamengo collapse? That Esperance match becomes absolutely critical.
Huge mental test. Can they regroup? Can they handle the pressure? Now it's really on. We'll find out.
And stepping back again, looking at the big picture, this Club World Cup format, it's delivering, isn't it? That unpredictability FIFA wanted.
It really seems to be.
Yeah.
That billion-dollar prize pot, the 32 teams, it feels like a proper global event now. And results like this are exactly why. It proves European teams can't just walk it anymore.
The balance feels like it is shifting, or at least being seriously challenged. This match felt like proof of concept for the expanded tournament.
Totally agree. It shows teams from other continents are prepared, tactically astute, and can absolutely compete and win on this stage. It makes the whole thing far more compelling.
And that Philly atmosphere comes back into it too, doesn't it? That Americana-like support showed how passionate fan bases can travel and genuinely impact these games, even on neutral ground.
Yeah, it adds another fascinating layers, not just about the teams. It's about the cultures, the fans, creating these incredible atmospheres far from home. Makes it feel truly global.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this deep dive up. What are the main takeaways here?
Well, first off, this match is going down as a landmark moment for this new Club World Cup, no doubt. It showed the format works, it creates drama, it challenges the old order.
Yeah. And specifically, we saw Flamengo's tactical maturity, that incredible fan backing, and just ruthless finishing. Overcoming Chelsea's talent, sure, but also their immaturity and indiscipline on the day.
It's a huge validation for South American soccer, for Felipe Luis's coaching, and definitely for the value of sheer experience in these massive games, just like Marcani said. But it also throws up big questions for Chelsea about their mentality in tournaments, their tactical flexibility under Maresca, and obviously the recurring discipline problem with Nicolas Jackson. Lots for them to think about.
It really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? And maybe this is the thought to leave everyone with. In this new global club landscape, this expanded tournament, does experience now consistently beat raw talent? Is that the new equation?
That's a great question.
And what does this one match, this deep dive we've done, really tell us about where club soccer is heading? Is that power balance between continents genuinely shifting for good?
It certainly feels like it might be. This match was a pretty strong piece of evidence, wasn't it? Fascinating times ahead.
Absolutely. A lot to ponder.
Well, that's all we have time for on this deep dive. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Catch you next time.